Hello, welcome. This session is called Nothing Will Be Televised. Are young people switching off? Welcome. Thank you for coming out at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. I'm going to introduce our panelists, and then we're going to get straight into it. So, young people are switching off TV. Is this true? 66% of young people tuned into BBC last year, compared with 81% of older generations. Average age of Channel 4 is 51, and E4 is 42. Yeah, I know. So let's meet our panelists who will help us discuss this and debate this. I know it's early, but please feel free at any point, if you don't agree with anything or you have something to say, just shout out and heckle. It's okay if it gets rowdy. But if you want to be more polite, then there will be like a Q&A thing at the end, so we could do that. Cool. So our panelist, whose cumulative age is probably about 160. He told me to say that. He told me to say that. It's in the cue card.
Thanks, mate.
So we've got CJ Fahey, I said it right, who works for Viceland. He is the general manager. He's responsible for TV networks, the TV network's creative and strategic development, as well as overseeing all output across linear, mobile, and multi-platform offerings. That's what it says on there. I hope that's right.
Yeah, more or less.
Great. You're doing well, CJ. Well done. He's nailing it. Viceland is wicked. Okay. We've got Emma Cooper, who's the Managing Director of Non-Scripted Television at Pulse Films. As you saw in the sizzle reel, Emma's been working on things like BBC Three's United States of Hate, Muslim Under Attack, The Last Days of Legal Highs, and a number of projects. One that's in development, which is a 10-part series called Rock and Roll for Sky, right?
Oh, yeah. That's coming out next week, everybody.
Oh, nice, nice. We've got Richard Cowles, who is the creative director at ITV Studios. He's worked on global hit formats such as I'm a Celebrity, Hell's Kitchen, and a really small show you probably haven't heard of it, Love Island. Don't know if it rings a bell. Well done again, you're doing well as well. Thank you very much.
Am I not doing well?
Emma, you're doing well as well.
I mean,
no, you're all doing well.
Right,
however, Tom isn't. No, Tom's doing well as well. He's the vice president at Viacom, and he looks after the strategy and digital and digital business. So that sounds really official.
You got it. You nailed it.
Yes, good.
Absolutely nailed it.
Cool. So that's the panel. Let's hear it for the panel, please. Good. Yes. And what's your name, mate? Me. Yeah. Harry. That is the correct answer. Harry, what's my name? Oh, my name is Mawaan. I didn't introduce myself. Yes, my name is Mawaan. I'm an actor and comedian, and I'll be hosting the panel. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Oh yeah, you can clap. Yes. You're so responsive for audiences probably mostly hungover. Harry, what do you do?
I work for Channel 4.
Great. Are you loving life?
Yeah.
Good. Great. Thank you for coming out.
Sorry?
Thank you for coming out to this.
Thanks for hosting me.
You're so welcome, Harry. This is going well. Let's hear it for Harry.
Harry, at least you got your name right.
Yeah. It's Mawaan, okay? Please remember, don't mispronounce it. So, just a quick thing, there is an app. We have an app, a TV Festival app. This is the first session of the TV Festival, so yay us. We've got an app, and there's a poll on there, and you can vote. So if you go on the app, you can vote. The question we're asking is TV dead? Is TV dead? You can say yes or no. That's simplistic answers, please. So go on that and vote. You can vote now or you can vote throughout the session, but we'll do the results at the end or something, okay? It'll be very exciting. Okay, so we're gonna start with a VT from students at the Globe Academy in South London, and they've given us their thoughts on some of the broadcasters that we'll be discussing today. So what do you think of that? Do you think that's a reasonable response, Richard? What's up with ITV, man?
They like Love Island. I mean, I think it's quite difficult for this audience to associate necessarily with individual channels. I think they associate with content, and then they come to the channel. So the content will bring them to the channel with these, and they're finding it in different ways. So they find it on their phone, and they find it in different ways. So I think in terms of the reaction to ITV, I don't think it was bad.
Do you think more traditional channels are putting young people off? Do you think linear TV's got a bad rep? Emma?
Look, I'm a producer. I love all buyers and all channels at all times. What do I think? I think that just the fact that it's linear is just difficult, because they've got to kind of think of everybody, unless you've got a very defined channel like ITV2 or Viceland. So they've got to think beyond like 16 to 34s, and there's so many slots to fill and so many people to please. You know, if you're going to go for a really pure audience, I guess the overnights are going to be a bit lower. And so that doesn't look great sorry, I'm talking very corporately here. There we go, I used to work at Channel 4. I mean, I think it's interesting as a producer going in and pitching, because you want to say, actually, I just want to do stuff for 16 to 34s, but you can't really have that conversation because you're cutting yourself out of quite a lot of slots.
One thing that I found interesting about that is that when they're talking about the TV channels, they talked about shows, content. But it seemed like in large part when they were talking about the platforms like Snapchat or YouTube, they were talking more about the experience. Like they didn't mention any content specifically.
And I know you think about that when you're doing things like Viceland and going from digital to a more linear space?
I think Viceland is, like Snapchat and YouTube are more platforms. Viceland is still sort of a content creator. Well, Vice and Viceland across the whole ecosystem. So I think people probably still relate to us more on content than platform.
So we asked our students whether they watch TV, and this is what they said. So they're talking a lot about self-scheduling. Do you think that's an important thing that TV channels need to factor in?
I think there's a really important distinction, and I think they were understanding the question about TV as like the big set in the corner, and not television as a medium across different devices and different platforms, right? They were talking about watching on the internet, but I would assume that is as much on the iPlayer or 4OD or My5 on Channel 5, or on YouTube or even on Snapchat and Facebook, using those as platforms to engage with content. I would argue that those are still forms of television, they're just not the TV set.
They mentioned things like the Euros. Do you think that TV needs to be live or have a live event?
Me?
CJ. I'm looking at you, man.
I don't think so. I mean, not at all. I guess, to Tom's point, I think it calls into the question, what is TV? It seems like it's a word that maybe even over time will need to change. Because when you say TV to young people, they think TV sets. Whereas, at the end of the day, it's really about the shows. So does TV need to be live? No. I think that people, consume the content, when they want, where they want it. I think some stuff that is live, like, we really see break through, but it doesn't need to be.
Right.
Okay. I think it's important. Sorry.
You go.
I think live is, for the traditional linear broadcasters, I think live is the unique ground that they can fight on. So there is, TV still exists. 80% of TV viewing by this audience is still TV, long-form linear programs. And they might be watching it on different devices, but there is absolutely a world where people want to watch together in a kind of united environment where you sit with your family or you sit with your brothers and sisters. And we're talking about an audience here which are, these are sort of 16 to 18, but the people we're capturing are 16 to 34, 16 to 24. That is a lot of different stages of life that are going on there. And the way they view television will evolve. So the younger ones don't have access to the remote. They're watching on their phone or on their tablets or on the computer. But I think, as they get older, they have more control of the TV in the living room, and they'll probably watch that way.
Do you think that, or do you think as they get older they'll be so used to their devices that they won't even bother with telly?
But I think they'll do both. I think they just do
Why?
whatever suits them.
Why do you think that?
Well, I think there's quite a lot of evidence which shows that cohorts do change their behaviour as they get older, right? So as a 16-year-old, yes, a 16-year-old will hold on to some of those behaviours when they become 26 and 36, but they also do like revert to type, right? As they get older, they have their own place perhaps, or, you know, maybe less and less so now, but you know, and they have families and they're more likely to have a passive, lean-back experience with the television set. So, you know, it has been argued, of course, that a 16-year-old who will just be consuming content on their mobile phone will get rid of TVs, and when they buy a house or when they have, you know, less time on their hands, will continue to just view on the phone. But I think that's kind of been proven wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got some stats. We've got some sexy old stats. And these show, so we'll get the slide up. These show that 16 to 24s are now down to 90 live minutes per day from 2 hours and 30 minutes in 2007. It shows that 25s to 34s now watch live TV 1 hour and 50 minutes per day, down from 3 hours and 10 minutes per day a decade ago. And over 35s, we don't talk about them. So that's a huge decrease, you know. 16 to 24-year-olds are watching an hour less TV a day. And so what do you think about that, Richard?
Thank you.
TV man.
I suppose the distinction there is live TV.
Yeah.
And it goes back to your self-scheduling thing. So I think they will watch it in their own terms and in their own time. So they're still watching TV, it's still there being consumed, they're just consuming it differently. And I think the fact that, I don't know if it'd be interesting to see the stats the other way, but I kind of think that they are still consuming television, they'll consume it differently. I think live TV has to work harder to capture them, and it has to be a bigger event, and it has to be, but it doesn't mean they're not watching.
No, and actually I think it's a really exciting time because as a viewer you're so fucking powerful. You've got two complete sort of orbs of viewing that you didn't have before. People like us have got to work even harder to try and get amazing content for you to view because you are so powerful, and pitching into those markets is really exciting because you can have conversations and do things which you couldn't do before because you were sort of locked into very sort of, you know, definite briefings and things like that, and you don't anymore. So it's not a bad thing. It just means that live TV has got to work harder to get shared viewing.
I think it's also, it's changing the business model, right? Like it's changing the way that people have to monetize content. Whereas before, you know, it was all about live ratings and ad sales. Now, as people are watching it in a lot of different ways, it creates a lot of different opportunities to monetize the content. And so for me, that's kind of where the future is going. How well can you monetize across different viewer habits?
Can't it just be about making people happy?
That too.
What is money? And what do you mean by that? So you're across many platforms, and is that you knowing? Are you doing it with the knowledge that the internet is taken over, or are you just trying to be everywhere so that whichever one sort of takes off, you're with on that platform?
Yeah, I think more that. Like we see everything as sort of complementary. You know, like a lot of people are moving into digital to complement their TV business. For us, it's kind of vice versa. Like we're moving from digital, we're expanding to TV just to complement our existing business. I don't know what the future is going to look like of the industry, and I don't think even my bosses at Vice know. But I think as a result of that, our approach is really just to get good at making content everywhere, get good at monetizing that content everywhere, and then hopefully we'll be in a position to succeed.
Interesting, very clever. It's good. Richard, you said that the young people are watching telly, they're just watching it on loads of different platforms.
Yeah.
Well, funny you say that, because we've got another slide of stats. This is what young people are doing with on-demand services. So Attentional also looked at the unidentified viewing, which is stuff that they're viewing on tablets and other stuff. 16 to 24s are watching 15 minutes more TV than they did 10 years ago. 25s to 34s are watching 20 minutes more, and over 35s now watch 40 minutes more. So this does prove your point that there's more TV being watched, but not always on linear platforms.
Yeah, I mean, with Love Island, we have, with the ITV Hub, we would have the simulcast, which basically meant that you could watch the show, instead of watching it on your TV, you're watching it on live as it goes out, but on your phone or online or whatever. And that might be 13-year-old boys not wanting to watch with their parents, or it might be that you just, they don't have access to
Why would you not want to watch Love Island with your parents? I don't understand.
But it could be that you just don't have access to the TV remote and that your parents don't want to watch. So I think they are watching, and they're watching live often if you get the right content.
But that was one of the most exciting things about the Love Island thing, was that everybody watched it together, and the 13-year-old boys did watch it with their mum and dads, which blew my mind. I would have been so embarrassed. But it was amazing shared viewing, which I think is a real moment, and we should kind of learn from. Oh, now I'm sort of saying let's show under 16s loads of really. No, I'm just thinking about that.
Great, you heard it here first.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't mean
This is
that.
exclusive for the press. Polls have said. No, okay, so that makes sense. But okay, so we are quickly going to do the poll. So has anyone been voting yet? No, because you've been so engaged in what we've been saying. We'll take a look at it. I won't say the results, but just to remind you so that you can do that. Harry, you having a good time? Yeah? Good, okay. If there's anything you need, just let me know. Okay, so we're going to play another VT, and we asked the young people what their favourite TV show was, and this is what they said. So there's a lot of big dramas in there, as well as some variety, and big US shows. How do you think we can compete? Tom?
Yeah, so I guess I've got two perspectives on this, because we obviously operate Channel 5 in the UK, but then have a large number of international brands that have a lot of international content on them. So MTV, Comedy Central, the two kind of primary 16 to 34 brands. And certainly on the pay brand, so MTV, Comedy Central, we have had exceptionally high ratings for our UK commissioned shows. So our UK commissioned shows, X on the Beach, Geordie, have been like our biggest shows ever, but they're really complemented by the big international US shows, because just incredible content comes out of the US and elsewhere. I think in the UK we have a very healthy TV ecology that is able to bring those two things together. I don't think we are unbalanced at the moment. I don't think it's a problem that there are some really big US shows which are engaging with people. And a lot of those shows as well have huge British talent in them, right? Like Game of Thrones, for example, has almost an entirely British cast as far as I could tell.
And what about series that they're into that get cut off too soon? Do you think maybe Britain has a pattern of not commissioning enough, or not letting it last long enough?
Well, we were talking about that before we started with Love Island, and Channel 5 have just TX'd Make or Break, which is not dissimilar to Love Island. And Love Island doubled. You can talk about it much more eloquently and clearly than I can, but doubled its audiences through the 3 series, and this last season's just been a knockout success. And we've just had the first season of Make or Break, which has done fine. Actually consolidated really well, weirdly. Like, it did really well over the next 24 hours. Like, so people were catching up with it, even though the next episode was out the next day. So yeah, I do think we can compete. I think we have incredible shows, but yes, you need to give, maybe for 16 to 34s, you need to give some time for those things to capture kids' imaginations, or young people's imaginations.
Yeah, don't patronise them.
Yeah, the kids.
Yes, Emma, do you think that there's too much choice, and how is it best to grab young people's attention?
Well, so sort of falling back into the last question as well. So we at Pulse, I make stuff in the US and I make stuff in the UK. And in the US, we're making stuff for those big SVODs. They'll just slam they commission factual drama. So I'm making like an 8-part series for one of them at the moment, and it's very high-end content, and it's quite kind of viewer agnostic in terms of age. But I think in terms of the UK, what's really still exciting is that you can still have a conversation. And what's very important to me, and one of the reasons why I'm at Pulse, is that we need to figure out, just as a sort of part, as well as doing kind of like really high-end, really shared viewing, don't patronise them, but we need to be having more conversations about how we look at their behaviours, or our behaviours, because we're all getting the same behaviours, let's face it, sometimes. Anyway, and see how we kind of like put that into new formats, and we don't, and alongside, it's not broken, we don't need to fix it, we've got Love Island, but I think more and more in TV, we just don't kind of look at the behaviours and try and sort of fill that into content. And I think you can really do that. There's real opportunities to do that in the UK where you can't in the US, because they just want like massive fuck off factual that can compete against drama. And that's why it's kind of fun, pitching to all of these places, particularly Viceland, because they're quite sorry. They're up for thinking about things in a way that those kids that we've just seen might be very, very kind of used to in their behaviour, and they want to bring that onto the TV. That doesn't answer your question, but I can't remember what it was.
No, but good answer.
Thanks.
I can't even remember my own question.
Hey, there you go.
I mean, I think you asked about, is there too much choice? And clearly choice is a good thing, especially for consumers and viewers. And even if it makes it tougher to build a business in a world of a lot of competition and a lot of options of things to watch.
Don't say monetize again, you said that.
I was going to say that.
All right, good.
Any time that we're trying to go against what's good for the viewers and what the audience wants, that's not a long-term game that you're going to win. So I think as an industry, we have to embrace choice and really focus on giving people what they want.
Okay, well, who's ready for some more stats? I said, who's ready for more stats? Okay, all right, guys, don't force it. So have a look at these. These are the most popular TV shows across all ages. So, Richard, you're looking pretty good on that slide.
Yeah, happy with that.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, good. I mean, I think I'm a Celebrity is an interesting one because it's, over the last few years, it's been growing its 16 to 24 audience. And, and this is a show that's, it's been growing its ratings anyway, but this is a show that's in its, well, we're going to do our 17th series this year. So I think there is a public consciousness about that show. And it's sort of because it's on a fixed time every year, and it's, it's in the run-up to Christmas. Everyone's ready. It's a live event. It's what live linear TV does best. You all sit there with your family. The range of people that watch that show as a family experience, whereby every member of the family can get something from it, is what linear TV does best for a really broad audience on ITV.
And it's mainly factual entertainment on there as well. There's not a lot of drama. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't know if with the young audience that we're talking about, they've grown up digitally connected, haven't they? They've never had they've always had access to the internet. So they've always, and then, Netflix and platforms like that they've grown up with. And I guess for drama, that is probably their go-to place, is to go to their phone and things like that. So, but that doesn't mean it's not hitting through. It's just perhaps they're consuming it differently. But
what I would be really curious to know is to see another slide, which I don't think we've got, which would be, what are the shows that's just really pure youngs, but it might be quite low audiences, because I think we need to start seeing spikes of actually what you're interested in. Yeah, they're going to watch those high volume shows, of course they are, but what are the shows that I've never heard of that has got a very pure 16 to 34 or even 16 to 24 audience? And then I think you can start really kind of, figuring out what the future series are going to be, because, these are quite familiar, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's a bit boring.
Yeah.
But they're great.
I wonder, if what the future will see is sort of if now there's sort of a large distribution of different types of content, if the future will see a lot more shows like Love Island, these sort of big event shows, and then a lot of stuff sort of on the long tail, like shows that speak very specifically to audiences that are passionate about, one type of story or one subject, but then not as much stuff sort of in the middle.
Well, what are you going to work? What do you want to work on?
I mean, I think Vice is the long tail. We've always been about speaking very clearly.
What's the long tail?
As in, not as, more what you're saying, like kind of pure audience,
Yeah.
like not big numbers, but sort of real passion points.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we've built our business, speaking very specifically to, people that are passionate about what we talk about.
And I think the great thing for companies, TV businesses, is that social and online offers a great opportunity to experiment in those sorts of spaces, right? To try and identify, and we've been doing a lot of this at both Comedy and MTV, to try and identify talent or ideas, or just anything in social that we think actually has got kind of a kernel of creativity that we can take to TV. And it does allow us to, I'm not going to say monetize, I'm going to say commercialize. It does allow us to, focus on the commercialization on the linear channels, which are, and linear brands, which continue to be our bread and butter and will continue to be the bread and butter of most people in this room for the next 5-10 years. But it also allows us to create content in a quite experimental and innovative and frankly cheap way versus a TV pilot.
Well, we do have another slide, Emma, and this is the data for the TV shows that are most skewed towards young people.
You asked
is
for
that
it.
kind of
This is the one you asked
but that's
for.
not the right that's not the answer I wanted.
That's all we've got. Okay, stop demanding.
No, it doesn't.
Google it.
What's Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
It's a cop show.
It's got the right answers. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you wanted to know things that you didn't know of.
Goodness me, what is that? Is that
Brooklyn
a drama?
Nine-Nine,
Pop
any
show,
fans?
comedy. Comedy show, yeah.
She knows.
Showing my age.
I definitely need to go to the eye doctor because I can't read
I can't read that either.
You can see it there.
So between 1624's Love Island, Hollyoaks, Family Guy, Love Island again after Sun, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So those are the shows that are actually targeted towards a younger crowd.
Yeah.
And how do you go about trying to appeal to that audience? Do you set out do you set out to be like, right, we're going to appeal to it?
I mean, the show was commissioned by ITV2. It had existed previously on the main channel, 10 years ago or whatever, as Celebrity Love Island. But ITV2 were looking for a format that could capture that young audience and sort of define the channel. So we deliberately set out to do that. And I think we were quite conscious of not having celebrities. That was quite a big discussion because actually the world had moved on and we wanted to make celebrities from the show. So you actually sort of put in people who are, the stars of Instagram, because people kind of recognize that they consume people. And what's fascinating about the cast is that they are their own sort of marketeers online. And sort of with Instagram and all of that, they already have a presence which lives outside of television. So casting those people was the sort of first step to attracting the
So when
audience.
you cast it, are you thinking, like traditionally, they'll just be really good characters, or are you thinking, you know what, they've got really good appeal for youngs now?
Both.
Right.
Both. I think part of the way that our casting team, and they're young, they are those people.
Yes.
And they're going out there, they're going to clubs, they're meeting
Yeah.
people, they're trawling through social. So we've had last year we had 85,000 people apply. To go on Love Island, and we're already getting close to that for people who are registering for next year. So it's, but you kind of find people that register, and then you kind of blitz their social media, and you find other people.
And I think there's a really interesting difference, isn't there, between like talent or cast members on social who have a massive enthusiasm to be on TV, which I think is the vast majority, and then perhaps like a rarefied community of YouTubers who actually are less interested in being on TV, who actually have made a standalone brand that doesn't really, though it's been attempted, translate to TV particularly well. But my experience, or our experience, and it sounds like your experience as well, is that so many people on social who have strong digital brands are desperate to be on TV. They're desperate to make old-fashioned TV shows.
Social is the most important thing behind Love Island's success. It's just in terms of casting it, in terms of how we make the show. We are listening to, we're watching Twitter. I've got fantastic execs that work out there, and They are sort of reading Twitter, reacting to what people are saying and kind of going, okay, well, we need to move this storyline in that direction, which is, again, the advantage of being live. You kind of go, people are talking about this couple. They don't believe this relationship. So we can go, right, what are we going to do tomorrow? We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then so it's unpredictable, which is what they want. It's authentic, because I think the people that we put in there are relatable. They kind of, people understand, they're hot and they're amazing, but you could bump into them in a nightclub. They're not so sort of out of this world. And then you kind of, we're feeding them sort of updates all through the day. And then we, at lunchtime every day, we would drop a 2-minute sort of tease for tonight's show, which would, we got massive numbers of viewing people, watching that every single day to then drive people to the show. So using that as a marketing tool.
So you're not just using online as a way of sort of tagging it on, 20% of your budget goes online and then you do that as a tick box. You're using online to actually feed in to the future, the type of content you're going to make for the show in the future.
Absolutely. We are so reactive on that show, more reactive than any other reality show. We're writing the format every day. I would have a conversation with the execs in the morning and go, we do our viewing for tonight's show, and then we go, right, this is what we're going to do. And then they'd ring me at 9 o'clock going, no, this has happened, that's happened, Twitter says this, people don't like that, we're changing it.
That is
Emma, you look
so
like
fucking
your
exciting.
Your mind's blown away.
That's so exciting, because obviously I work in documentaries, and we've been, what the holy grail is to be able to include like so immediately in the storyline.
Yeah.
And you can do that. I'm so jealous.
We put in a challenge. We even take, there was one of our sort of best shows was when it was a Stormzy tweet who basically had said to Chris that Olivia wasn't right for him. And then we put that into the show, into one of the challenges. And that just sort of kicked off.
So it's all one big thing. It's not online and TV.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important. Reality TV used to be a bubble. You used to go in, you'd shut the doors, no one would interact. We're sending new people in all the time. They're coming with news from what's happening in the outside world. They think that you're this, they think that you're that. It feeds this drama and this unpredictability.
And it's also especially important outside of that TX period, right? Because you're doing, how long's Love Island? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
7 weeks.
7 weeks, sorry.
Yeah.
It's a relatively short period, but then there's a big gap between series, right?
Yeah, but it lives way beyond that.
Precisely.
Way beyond that.
Yeah.
One of the things I feel like something like Love Island will be really hard to replicate. And I don't think that there's ever going to be room for 10 Love Islands at any given time. I think one of the things that makes the show successful is that it is so singular and it attracts everybody to it at once. And so, it's just an interesting question. Can there be more than one Love Island at any given time?
I hope so, because we're pitching another one.
So just get Stormzy to tweet about it, you'll be fine.
You'd have to call it like the Love Archipelago or something.
I think that there can be, there's more space. I think Love Island is good because it's a really pure area for that age group.
Yeah.
Relationships, when you're 16 to 24, that's pretty much all your life is about. And so it's a really good, pure subject matter to get into and really relatable. It's finding those subject matters that go beyond relationships and love.
Tom, you mentioned YouTube earlier and the phenomenon that is and how that compares to TV. So let's just watch a quick VT. We asked if young people watch YouTube. What do you think about YouTubers and that whole genre and is there any elements of that you're incorporating into what Vice and Viceland does?
Well, I guess, YouTube is a lot of different things, obviously. Like, if you're talking about YouTubers, like the vloggers, that's not really something that we do, although I think that there's a lot of great stuff there. Vice as a video business really grew out of YouTube, and it's something that, to this day, really interacts closely with our TV business. Like, a lot of our TV shows started out as YouTube series. And so we even have things that had started out on, like one of our show, Fuck That's Delicious, with the rapper Action Bronson, started out as a YouTube series, became a TV series, and now we're going to continue with the TV series, but it's also becoming a Snapchat series. So for us, YouTube and all these platforms are just, it's really fun to sort of experiment with content across all the different platforms.
And do you think TV has to migrate onto social media and YouTube? Because when BBC Three happened, everyone was like, "Oh, it's gone online," and that was a whole, that was a big deal. But Vice have gone from online to linear and then back again as well. Like you're across it all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if TV has to migrate online. I think that's just another opportunity. That's how we look at it.
Okay, are you guys voting? Are you voting? Okay. Good. Okay, so we are going to have a Q&A thing very soon, but this is the last VT. We know that a lot of young'uns are watching Netflix, so we asked them if you can Netflix and chill, can you BBC and chill? And this is what they said.
I'm not sure any of them understood the question, did they? It's really reassuringly innocent and quite nice.
Yeah, I mean they're honest. Can you ITV and chill technically? It's a very technical question, Richard, to you.
You can Love Island and chill.
I mean, they chill on Love Island. It's all happening on the telly. So what do you make of that? How do you think Netflix has become a thing? And is it just, do TV channels just need to brand themselves better?
I think the Netflix phenomenon is fascinating for us, and particularly for these audiences, of course, because it is such an engaged experience. Like it's aggregated for you, but you have to engage with it. You have to choose. You have to select. You have to, have passion for a particular show. Whereas, traditionally our businesses have been lean-back experiences whereby, we broadcast a linear schedule and we've hoped that people are going to kind of tune in and tune out, but it's been more passive. And I think that, requires us to work harder. Our brands, of course, can also exist on Netflix. Like, Netflix is really a distribution platform in as much it's also a brand, a channel brand. But our brands can exist and do exist on Netflix. So, it is just a distribution opportunity as well. But there is, I think, a kind of an interesting user experience difference between kind of the Netflix lean forward engaged experience and perhaps the traditional experience.
People have always talked about TV being a passive experience, but I almost feel like for young people it's becoming the opposite. Like Netflix, the whole concept of Netflix and chill is maybe, you're with somebody, you don't really know what you're going to watch, so you just turn it on and, find something. Whereas TV now, people are much more sort of focused on specific shows.
Emma's definition is different.
That's not my definition of Netflix and chill.
Okay. I didn't want to get into the specifics.
We're going to have a Q&A, so if you want to ask the panel how they Netflix and chill, you can do that.
Individually.
Yeah. Can we, has anyone got any questions? Yes, first hand up. Can we get a mic there? And while we do get that mic there, we're just going to look at the poll. Okay. Shall we reveal now? Can I say it? Okay, so we asked you if TV is dead. 13% said, yes, it did. 87% said no. But don't get too excited, because you are the TV festival. Let's take another question, because we have time here. Can we get a mic there? And then we'll go to you next.
Hello.
Hi.
In terms of money and young people moving online and still wanting high-end content, is there enough money to financially, for it to be financially sustainable with things like ad blockers and things like, is the monetization of those programs enough to keep it running? Basically?
CJ knows about monetization. Go.
Did I paint myself with that word?
Sorry.
I mean, one of the reasons.
So is this sustainability in the monetization online? Yeah.
Yeah. One of the big reasons Vice got into TV is that TV today is still by far the most efficient way to monetize content. So I think that, it is tough digitally to, if that's your only source of funding for content and you're trying to do things that are ambitious, I think it is tough to fund.
But in addition to that, though, I think, the traditional TV business has two revenue lines, right? It has advertising and affiliate fees from subscribers, neither of which are, captured if we're just delivering to online audiences. But online, the internet and social platforms have unique sales opportunities. So branded content is one, funding through the kind of orthodox, traditional inventory that the platforms operate. So, the YouTube model's not very attractive at the moment, but might mature. The other platforms have their own, on-platform advertising. I think those are important supplements to our core business. In addition to live events, in addition to merchandising, I think it's important increasingly for us as business people to think holistically about what revenues opportunities there are around those shows.
And I think literally what I'm seeing in the last kind of even few weeks, again, it's really exciting. It's really competitive. Those platforms that are coming in, their tariffs actually are growing and growing and growing, particularly the global ones like YouTube and stuff. They are aggressively coming in. So all of a sudden you're like, shit, there's proper money here and we're going to be able to make the content that we really want to make that's high end and it isn't making any kind of compromises at all. So it's happening, and I think it's happening very, very quickly.
Let's take one more question here, and I think that's our time. So make it a good question, no pressure.
I'll try. It's Lindsay Clay from ThinkBox.
Hey, Lindsay.
Why do you think it is that the TV industry seems to be much more down on the whole topic of young people's viewing than the young people themselves? Because if you look at those videos, it's an incredible vote of confidence in, they're watching in all sorts of different ways. The session's called Have Young People Switched Off? And the question is TV dead, that we have to answer? And it always feels like that's always the topic we discuss at these conferences. Why do you think that is?
I wanted to get your attention. Word limit. That's a very good question, though. That is, why are we so negative about it? Why is it not a good thing?
I think that it falls into two categories. I think us as producers, it's very exciting. There are more platforms there, and TV is a world where the best shows will win out. And so, as a producer of shows, you can go out there and create for any platform. We'll talk to we'll talk to everyone. I think as for the broadcasters, that's probably what we're talking about, is sort of linear TV dead, and I don't think it is, because I think it's offering something unique.
But having said that, there's no one in this room that can't say the overnights are down. I mean, look how bad it is. Okay, behaviours are changing, but not that much. Like, even when people consolidate +7, it's still a lot lower than it used to be on linear, apart from the odd spike like your show.
Yeah, but it's also harder to measure. I think Barb and all of we're still trying to catch up in how you measure the audience that's watching on other devices, and that hasn't really come through yet as to how you sort of work out, okay, well, we're sat here watching the screen in the living room, and Barb can give us all of these details about who's watching, how they're watching. We're not quite there with people watching on other devices and measuring that. So,
agreed. And I think, maybe the 13% of people here who don't, who voted no, who voted yes, TV is dead, will agree with this, which is, there is a shift of attention and consumption from TV to non-TV, right? And that's the threat, I suppose, we're mulling, which is, if you're engaged on Facebook, if you're using Facebook or you're using Snapchat or you're on YouTube, maybe not so YouTube, but those other platforms, there's a shift away from like TV, from video, to other forms of media, to other forms of engagement. And understanding that attraction and understanding that balance is really important for us as TV people, right? It's really important to know, like, well, what's captivating people about gaming? What's captivating people about, just memes or things that are, different forms or different formats that do take away from the TV experience?
I'm afraid we've run out of time. That was a very good question. Thank you, Lindsay. Please, can we thank our panelists and yourselves? Thank you for coming. Give it up for Harry! Thank you very much. This has been the session. Just want to say a massive thank you to our sponsors, ITV2. We're going to play you a little thing to send you out. Have a wicked rest of your festival. Thank you very much.